In this video, we're going to be installing a driver's side power window regulator on this 2007 Mazda CX-9. So what we're going to do is start right here inside our door handle. We're going to pull our handle open. We're going to use a small pick tool. You can use a small pocket flathead screwdriver. We're just going to pry this cover forward. Right inside there we have a Phillips screw. Go ahead and remove that. So we're going to remove this trim piece here. All right, this trim piece comes off as one piece, and you're going to have a couple of bolts behind here. So we're going to use a small plastic panel tool, get in behind here. You can come in from the top, or you can come in from the bottom, or you can come in from right here, whichever you decide. Plastic panel tool will not or should not do any damage. I'm just going to pry this cover off. What I like to do here is kind of work, we know the clip is at the front, so we'll work the back portion or the middle out first. All right. And then this piece is going to come off by angling it out and sliding it out. So like we said, this is the last piece you want to remove. You want to take the back side out and angle this out, because this clip goes in here and locks in behind this panel, and you don't want to break this. So behind our cover here, we're going to have two bolts. This one's in pretty deep, so we have a little extension. They're going to be 10 millimeter. And one more. Next piece we're going to take off is this inside mirror trim here. So just going to grab right along the window edge side and just pull inward. So now what we're going to use is a wider panel tool. We're going to come in behind the door panel and between the door panel and the painted portion of the door. You can see somebody else has already been here. We're going to use our panel tool and pry that door panel forward. There's a few clips in behind here that we're looking to release, so you should start to hear some pops. Just go ahead and do this all the way around the exterior perimeter. Now our door panel is loose. We're going to grab it by the pull handle, lift straight up, and lean it in towards us a little bit so we can have access now to the wiring and cables on the back side. So now that we have our door panel pulled forward, we have a couple of cables here and a couple of plugs we're going to deal with. We're going to start up here on our lock and door handle open cables. Our door handle open cables, these actually have popped out. Typically they'd be sitting in a little clip here, and you're going to pop them out. You're going to pull them out from that clip. The bottom one here is going to be the same thing. What we're going to do now is just lift them up and out of their respective locks here. This one's on the bottom for the door handle. This one here is our lock. So we're going to remove our electrical connection here for our lock and unlock. Now what we can do is actually rotate our door panel slightly, move closer to the inside, and we can remove our window switches. Sometimes an extra little pick tool or a flat blade screwdriver will help you get these clips pushed in. All right, just work your way right down there. All right, now from this point we are actually stopped disconnecting our window switches. We left on the power, the very bottom switch. which powers our windows. So what we're going to do is right across here, we're going to find these two black covers. We're going to remove these two covers. Just pop them right out. And what that's going to do is give us access to the two bolts holding our window regulator to our glass. While keeping an eye through here for two silver bolts, we're going to take our driver's side window switch and put it up. What we're going to do is locate these two silver bolts in the center of these two openings. Once you have those two silver bolts in these two openings here, we can go ahead and with a 10 millimeter remove these two bolts. If you happen to drop these two bolts inside the door area here, don't worry about it. We'll actually end up removing this black panel and getting into the inside. So we'll get them then. Now what we're going to do is take our window switch and put our window all the way in the up position. Make sure it's all the way up and seated into the gasket. Once we have our window all the way up, we can go ahead and shut off our vehicle and disconnect our last plug on our window switch. And the last plug we have down here is actually our light bulb. So with the light bulb, just want to be careful. We're going to twist and remove. And you're going to remove the bulb with it. Try not to let it smash against the door or break. We can take our door panel out. We're going to take some wide masking tape. We're going to tape our window on the outside, up and over the window frame, and into the inside. What this is going to do is keep our window held up. This is the most important part of the job. Once you have your window taped up, we can move on to the interior panel on the door. So we're going to start with our electrical harnesses here. We're going to remove them from the interior of the door panel. We'll start with our two plugs. Remove those. We'll work our way backwards, removing the harnesses from this black panel here. Just going to use a panel tool and pop these out. All right, we have our harness removed. We have one connection on our power window motor and then one connection behind our speaker. We'll take our power window motor connection off. And then to unplug our speaker, it's going to be 4 Phillips screws. We'll remove our speaker and the plug will be on the back side. Go ahead and lean your speaker right out. We'll disconnect that connection and we'll put our speaker aside. So now at this point, what we're going to do is take this harness and put it up and over the door. So now we're going to take out our power window motor. It's going to be 3 10mm bolts. Now our power window motor is held in, not really held in, but just locked in here with this little peg. So we're going to take our power window motor and just slide it straight back to us. Alright, so what you've done is remove the geared portion of the motor from this portion of your window regulator. Alright, so now we're just going to take out our 10mm bolts all the way around the perimeter of this black piece. have one little push clip right here. Just going to use a pick tool, pull the inside portion of this clip forward. Once you get it loose, you should be able to pull that right out. All right, so now what we're going to do is grab a hold of this interior panel in the speaker area and somewhere down below on the opposite side, and we're going to pull towards us, angling the bottom out, and drop it down. Now there should be some kind of adhesive or foam running around here that you may have to pull a little bit to get it to come loose. Once you do that, we're going to work our regulator right out with this piece. So now we have our interior panel of our door here, and you can notice we have two bolts which are holding our regulator to that panel. So what we're going to do now is remove these two 10mm bolts, which will separate our regulator from the inside of this panel. Actually, two 10mm nuts. Now this piece holds the cable that actually makes your window go up and down, and it's spun into a lock in 3 places. So we're going to need to take this whole assembly and spin it backwards, best done from the back. If you reach around the back and grab that assembly and twist opposite of the way it's locked in, you can go ahead and remove it. So here we have our new window regulator, and we're going to face it threads up or studs up. We're going to put it into our interior panel here. All right, so we're going to take our panel, lift it up. We're going to take our regulator and slide it under here. We're going to line up those studs with the holes and rest our panel down on. We can then take our 2 nuts, put them onto the regulator studs. So you can see you have 3 notches, and on our actual piece of a regulator here, we're going to have 3 tabs we're going to need to align and spin to lock in. So we're going to line up those notches in the unlocked position, and then while holding it from the back, give it a spin and lock it into position. Once you're done with that, go ahead and make sure this plastic piece here is pressed all the way in. We're ready to take this to the vehicle. So before you start, if your regulator is in this position with this arm here all the way up, we're just going to press it down to about that far. All right, so now we're ready to put our black panel back into the door. Obviously, we're going to have to line up and direct in our window regulator up and in. And then we're going to start to loosely line it up. You do have a little peg down the bottom here, which will go into a pre-designated hole. We're going to make sure that our screw or our bolt holes look like they're lining up fairly well. Once we have that sorted out, we can start to put a couple of these bolts back in to hold this panel in place. All right, and we have our plastic clip to push back in place. Now we're going to take our wiring harness. We're going to start to bring it into position. We know that these plugs are going to go over here. Everything else is going to go this way. If you take your 2 plugs and plug them back in, start there. It should make finding where everything goes just a little bit easier. And loosely lay things out. Start to remember where they clip back into. Just push them back into place. Now this one's for our power motor. We're going to leave that loose for now. And this one's for our speaker, which we'll install right now. So take our speaker, plug it back in. Now you can see, if you look at the harness for your speaker, you can see that there's a little indentation here on the foam. That's where it's going to run through here and into a little notch, so the speaker wire doesn't get pinched and ruined. Put our speaker back in place and our 4 Phillips head screws. So now we're going to replace our motor. First thing we're going to do is take our electrical connector, plug it in. Second thing we're going to do is we're going to align this interior gear on our motor into this plastic hub here. All right, so what that means is we're going to guide this pin into this cutout while trying to align the center 2 gears to mesh. That looks pretty good. Once we have that done, we can push in and put our 3 10mm bolts back in. Once we have our electrical connection plugged in and our motor in, we can plug this harness clip back into place. And we can take this harness here and just pop it back or squeeze it back into this little area right there. At this point, you want to put your key in your ignition, turn it 2 clicks forward. Do not start it, you don't need to. We're just getting power to the window. Then you want to take your interior door panel here, take your largest plug, your window switch plug, plug that back in. And then we're going to take our window up switch and put our driver's side window regulator from down about here up to meet the bottom of the window. All right, once you notice your window move like that, the regulator has met the actual window where it bolts together. So now that our regulator is all the way up, meeting the bottom of the window, we can go ahead and take our tape off. That's to help ensure that once you take your tape off, your window doesn't fall straight down into the door. And now what we're going to do is go to our left driver's side window, and we're going to lower our window until that regulator comes into view in these 2 openings here. We should have 2 bolt locations that we're looking for to be right in the center. We'll put our window down until we get there. So what you want to note is when you start to put your window down, you want to make sure the window goes down with the regulator. Sometimes you may need to help your window down with the regulator by putting downward pressure on the glass. You want to keep those 2 together. All right, so there's our 2 bolt locations. So now if you decide to, you can take your door panel and disconnect it. You can leave it on if you can work around it. Totally up to you. But what you want to make sure here is that your regulator is sitting in this channel or underneath this tab on both sides. Before you put your bolts in, make sure yours looks like that. We'll go ahead and reinstall our 2 10mm bolts. Well, in our case, you can see we're at a little bit of an angle, so we'll straighten that out a little bit. Now you can reinstall your 2 covers here. Just push them back into place. So now we're going to bring our door panel back up, get ready to install. The first thing we're going to do is put our light back into the lens here. Just push it in and turn. Once you have your light in place, you want to be very careful not to pull the bottom of the door panel back away. All right, so we're going to take our 3 window switch plugs, plug those back in. We'll then take our door lock plug and plug that back in. Now as you're plugging these in, you're working to get the door panel tighter and tighter. So now we have a little bit of room here. We're going to work on our handle and our lock. All right, so our handle and lock are going to go in the same way. You can see these have little notches or little tabs at the bottom. Both your handle and lock are going to need to be backwards, and your handle will need to be closed, not open. We're going to push the front of that down and in at an angle and lock it in place. And then we're going to take our plastic clips and push and lock them into these tabs here. Do the same on the top. All right. And we can pull this black plastic tab back and lock it into place as well. So now we're going to take our door panel here. We're going to use this little hook to go around our metal and our door panel. We're going to push it into the glass, pull it straight down. And if you look around the outside exterior, you can see in there to see if some of those clips are actually lined up in their holes. That's where you know if you're down all the way front and back. So now at this point, we've got our door panel hooked in on the top. Our clips are aligned. What we're going to do is grab the door panel about midway and just push in around the exterior all the way around. Should be able to pop those clips back into place. Once you've done that and you feel like you have them all in, go ahead and grab your handle of your door in your pocket and just give it a light tug inward. Make sure nothing feels loose around the perimeter. So if you don't have magnetic tools, getting your bolt all the way in here without it falling out sometimes is nearly impossible. So what I like to do is take a little bit of tape, sticky side on the head of the bolt. Give it a good squeeze, and then press that into your 10mm socket. Now you can put that bolt in its place. When you pull out, sometimes you may have to go fishing for that tape. Not a big deal. Now that we have our two bolts holding in the center of our door, we can put our cover back on. It's going to go in with this side first, and then close it at an angle, aligning our clips. Just give it a nice little push in. So the next piece we have is our door handle. Remember, we've done our lock and our handle. So just give those a little test, make sure they are working as they should. We can take our Phillips screw and screw back our panel. And then we have a cover, which we're just going to pop back into place. So now we're going to take our interior window molding here, or our mirror molding. We have a clip on the inside that's going to go down around our panel and one push clip. So we're going to align the bottom and angle it in and squeeze. Once you have your door panel put back together, it's time to do a function check. So you want to put your window down a little bit, make sure nothing grinds or is loose, do a little bit more. Reach up, give your window a little tug, make sure everything feels tight, and then you can go ahead and send it all the way down, all the way back up. Make sure it locks into place and doesn't go in at an angle.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.